Okay, we are live, so let me get this tweeted out. Okay, we're live. And we are like right on time too. 1 minute late maybe. Let's roll that intro. Hoosier Hardware's here. Let's get going. Yay. Okay, so today's show, or this week's show, we're looking again at the Pixel phones. But today we're going to be comparing them a little bit to the iPhone and the Galaxy S7, especially in regard to their camera. And also we're going to be looking at the reviews, which are finally coming in. And I'm going to focus on articles and things from The Verge, because The Verge is just a phenomenal website in general, especially as it pertains to coverage of phones. In fact, to the point that link is in the chat here for just following along in that regard. So we're gonna hop right into the Google Pixel review, and I'm not gonna go over it much because obviously this isn't my review. But first of all, one of the big knocks that I've seen in not just I don't even know if The Verge's review mentions it, but I do know that several reviews that I've watched on YouTube or read have mentioned the chin size of the Pixel, and if you'll notice, they sort of keep this symmetry here between the top and then also the bottom. Now, in other phones, like the iPhone, it's been pointed out that the bottom chin was symmetrical because you'd have like a home button down there, or there'd be a front-facing speaker or something down there to sort of break that up, which is not the case with the Pixel. And I will agree that that is sort of a head-scratcher. I would have loved, and already I haven't even got my hands on mine yet. It hasn't arrived yet. Obviously, they ship or they become available to the public tomorrow. Mine was pre-ordered, so hopefully I'll see mine in the next few days. But I would have already loved to have seen front blasting speakers, much like the Nexus 6P. That being said, that's just sort of one gripe that I have off the bat, and I already knew that was going to be a gripe. On the bright side, reviews have said that single speaker in the bottom of the phone is at least gets pretty loud. So at least there's that as sort of a consolation. Now, if you come down here, we're going to go clear down to the bottom of the review. You'll notice that The Verge gives the Pixel phone a 9, and that's sort of been the general summary from most review outlets has been one that has called the Pixel one of the best Android phones ever, if not the best Android phone ever, but they have also noted that you could find some other options that are just as premium at that price point. Something like a Galaxy S7 Edge may be more suitable for some people. The battery life has been reviewed as being very, very good. Google Assistant appears to be more intelligent than any other smartphone assistant on the market right now, whether we be talking about Siri, Cortana, or even Google Now. The bad stuff that The Verge notes are that it's not waterproof, which we already knew that going into the review process that it wasn't, and that sort of is a big bummer, especially considering that its primary competition, the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge, are at least water resistant to a point. I believe IP67. And The Verge notes that Google's take on Android needs to be a little more polished. I actually tend to disagree if it's anything like the Nexus was last year. I tend to like Android or Google's take on the Android operating system. So to refresh our memory, though, if we go to the iPhone review that was done by The Verge, also a great review. I encourage you to watch those or all of those. Also got a 9 out of 10. Good stuff being that they added water resistance. The improved cameras, which we'll get to that in a bit. Better battery life, which is, especially if you're on the iPhone 7 Plus, you get better battery life. If you're on the regular iPhone 7, you might need to top off by the end of the day. To me, Apple's displays have always been given more rope than they deserve, and I have recently used over a year ago now. I did use an iPhone 6 for a while, and it was sort of the same story where it was reviewed as being a great display, and for what it really was a good display, but I really do have a problem with giving Apple a pass on their low-resolution displays, especially in the iPhone 6S, the 7, not even full 1080p yet, which is, to me, hugely just a bummer. And that's sort of getting off topic. The Taptic Engine feedback is described as neat. I have not gotten a chance to play with that. However, if it's done as well as the MacBook was reviewed as being done, then props to Apple, because that's a really cool way of shrinking or getting rid of some internal components, like the push button. Removing one more moving piece makes it a little bit easier to waterproof, that sort of thing. Probably a good move on Apple's part. And then the dual camera zoom on the 7 Plus is described as great, and I would agree. It's interesting to me that Apple went with a dual camera setup on the Plus, because typically you don't think of Apple doing any gimmicky type things like that. But it's been very well reviewed. The bad stuff being obviously the well-covered lack of a headphone jack. Jet black model scratches easily. Just don't get the jet black model, get the matte black. Looks just like an iPhone 6. I don't see that as a negative. I thought the iPhone 6, 6S, and really even back to the iPhone 4, all the iPhones have looked good, so I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. Hashtag dongle life. Obviously, with only one port, you need dongles if you're going to use regular headphones or anything like that. It says it feels big compared to the competition. That I could see, especially when we move over to the Galaxy S7 Edge. And if you'll notice, the first thing you notice with the Galaxy S7 Edge picture is, first of all, that it is vast majority of the screen or of the phone itself is just screen space. And the chin and the forehead has your earpiece and as well as the front-facing camera, so obviously you're going to have some sort of forehead there. But then the chin is occupied by those capacitive buttons as well as the normal home button that Samsung ships with. So, and even then, the chin and the forehead is smaller on the S7 Edge. So you can pack, with Samsung, you're packing a larger screen, or a large screen rather, into a form factor that is much smaller than the screen size would usually denote. So, first of all, props for Samsung on doing that. Now, if you'll notice, we'll go down here to the bottom. For the S7, the regular S7 got an 8.8 from The Verge. And the S7 Edge, which is what I focus on because I feel like it's the better of the phones anyways because it has that bigger battery. They gave it a 9.1, which is 0.1 above the Pixel and the iPhone 7, respectively. Actually, not even respectively. They're both there. Good stuff. The Verge notes was the excellent design, which I definitely agree with. The excellent camera, which Samsung's been noted as having great cameras for several years now. Reliable battery life, fast performance, nothing new. Bad stuff being the bloatware, the finish is slippery. Again, I don't see that as a negative. Just slap a skin on it if you're really that concerned about it. It looks great. Too many preloaded apps, just mentioned the bloatware, and new software features that are hit or miss. That's always sort of been Samsung's downfall, is packing so many features into a phone that many of them don't even get used. But as long as they're not hampering the phone's performance and you can still disable them, then I don't see that even as a problem anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over here to the smartphone camera shootout between the three. Now, again, go to The Verge and check these out. I'm going to go ahead and put this link as well into the chat for those of you watching down the road. I'm actually even going to put this particular link, The Verge camera, smartphone. So I strongly encourage you to go to The Verge and actually check these things out. The link for the camera shootout is in the description or in the chat right now. But they do several of these comparisons. And a lot of these are really difficult to tell which phone is better. Just looking at the three across the board, I tend to like the two on the right. So I tend to like, at least for the flowers here, I tend to like a little bit more saturation there from the Pixel and the Edge versus the iPhone 7. Now, this is more of a preference thing, though. A lot of people have noted that the iPhone 7 tends to produce more realistic colors, and if you are sort of the mindset that you want more realism, then that may be the way for you to go. Again, if we zoom in here, you'll sort of see there's not huge differences across the board. So this picture even highlights the preferences a little bit more. You have the same picture, and again, you'll notice the Pixel and the S7 sort of give you punchier colors, but the iPhone 7 may give you probably what is a little bit more realistic colors. And when you're posting these things to social media of any kind, whether that be Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, whatever, these are really great pictures. Let's not let that be overshadowed at all. I mean, across the board, the sharpness and detail from these smartphone cameras is incredible. So we shouldn't take anything away from any of these cameras at all in that regard. I think they're all great cameras. And it really does come down to the preference. Now, this is a zoomed in photo, and this is where I think you see the iPhone 7 sort of pull ahead, at least in the zoom category, and really even the S7 Edge. The Pixel looks a little more pixelated, a little bit less smooth, a little bit less fine than the other two. So I feel like in this regard, if you're really looking at zoom quality, the iPhone 7 and an S7 Edge get the nod there. On down, and this was a picture I was looking at earlier, and I really felt like the iPhone wins this picture because if you look at the blue sky, I feel like there's more fuzz in the sky for the Pixel than the other two, and I really feel like the iPhone 7 does a better job of recreating the blue sky without creating much of that lower light, that sort of over-processed fuzz that goes on in the Pixel, and to a lesser degree the S7 Edge. So in this regard, I think the iPhone picture looks a little bit better there. For this one, this is a really low light scenario. Again, they all do a really good job considering, I like the iPhone 7, but that's more of a preference thing than anything else. But they all look great. The S7 Edge looks great. To me, the Pixel is a little bit behind again here than the other two. But again, preferences. This is a common picture that's shown because, or shown for cameras, is looking down a freeway like this, because you got the camera has to compensate for the bright spots in the picture, the reflection off the pavement, the sky, and all that. And in this regard, I really think that the Pixel does a great job. First of all, it gives you what looks like to me a little bit more of a natural light off the car headlights than do the others, and it also does a good job highlighting the sky, whereas the other two are a little bit darker. And it maintains really great detail, especially over here on the wall. So, selfie camera, don't want to overlook that. To me, the S7 Edge wins that one hands down. I feel like the iPhone 7 is too warm. I feel like the S7 Edge looks about just dead on with the color reproduction. The Pixel, to me, looks better than the iPhone. But again, preference. I really do feel like the iPhone 1 is a little bit on the warm side, though, and definitely isn't quite as good there. So, all the cameras have sort of their own pros and cons. If you look at this picture, the right side, I believe, is the Pixel. The left side is an iPhone. So here, Google's HDR does a great job of highlighting the shaded areas without losing the bright areas. So the HDR Plus and being automatic or by default on really does a great job there. Keep moving on, and we can go over these conclusions, but essentially a lot of your conclusion, whether you think the Pixel camera is better or worse than the iPhone 7 or the Galaxy S7 Edge, is going to come down to your personal preference. Like I said, I haven't quite got my hands on my Pixel yet. I'm really, really, really looking forward to that, though. Hopefully that happens this weekend, because I would like to get outside, go to the park, sort of do some camera work there and sort of test it out and see how it stacks up. Now, this question isn't really one that I'm going to answer, but based on cameras, there I am. So based on the cameras, should you get a Pixel if you were thinking about a Galaxy S7 Edge or an iPhone 7? And if you're basing it purely on the cameras, I would say look at comparisons. You may like the Galaxy S7 Edge a little bit better, the camera. You may like the Pixel a little better. You may like the iPhone 7 a little bit better. For most people, I think the cameras are so close in quality, though, I think the cameras are sort of gonna negate each other. If you prefer a little bit more saturation, then the Android side is the way to go, because both the S7 Edge and the Pixel saturate colors a little bit more, give you more punchy colors. So if you really are going for the natural look, the most close color reproduction that you can get, maybe the iPhone 7 is the best for you. But if you're not staunchly opposed to either side, you may be best off just going ahead and letting the other features of the phones decide. For example, if you're embedded in the Android ecosystem, obviously the iPhone 7 is out, if we're not considering cameras, which we shouldn't be, because they're almost equal. They're marginally better or worse depending on your preference. If you like a stock Android, then the Pixel might be right for you. If you have been in Samsung's ecosystem and you really like what they've done with Android, maybe that's best for you. For me personally, I'm a bit of an Android purist, so for me the Pixel makes a lot of sense. Gives me a great camera, whenever it shows up, that is. And it gives me pure Android and gives me quick updates. Some people, in fact I would say the majority of people, that's not such a big deal to. I don't feel like that's a deal breaker for a little bit slower updates for most people, because most people aren't tech heads that have to have the quickest updates and the most up-to-date software and this, that, and the other. So for most people, I think the Galaxy S7 on the Edge on the Android side will be just fine, and it comes down to your comfortability with either stock Android at that point or Samsung's version of Android. But I would say if you're in the market for a premium top-tier smartphone, there's three options, at least in my mind. Right now, there's the iPhone 7, there's the Pixel, and there's the Galaxy S7 Edge. To me, they're the three best. They all give you great battery life, they all give you great cameras, they all give you very refined software, very well integrated. They all give you, they all present little wins and little losses to each other, and they trade blows back and forth, but by and large, they get all the big things right. So that's sort of my overlook on the Galaxy S, or not the Galaxy S7 Edge, the Pixel, and how it stacks up camera-wise, especially to its chief competitors in the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7 Edge. If you like this type of my Hoosier hardware series, then go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe down below, please and thank you. That'd be awesome. Also, you can follow me right down there at Hoosier Hardware on Twitter. That's a great way to get a hold of me. So I am going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.